Welcome to bonus content, Lesson 8's guided exercises. In this video, we'll walk through exercises covering concepts from the last video. Again, there are 3 steps for each exercise. 1, I will present an exercise. 2, you'll pause the video and try the exercise. 3, I'll walk you through the solution. Some exercises are practice and others are quizzes. You should try testing your knowledge with these quiz questions. Let's hop right in. Navigate to alvin/coding101/exercises 8. You'll then see a page like this one. I'm going to hit, once you're on this page, click on Fork. So click on the title on the top left and click on Fork. Then you'll get an editable version of this template. On the left-hand side, I'm going to click on Files to minimize this tab, and I'm also going to drag this bar over to the right so there's more space for the code in our file. On the left-hand side, we're going to go ahead and start with question number 1, practice. Define a function printlist that accepts a list of strings and for all strings prints the string on a new line. Go ahead and try. And here's the solution. Define print list. We're going to pass in a list of strings, and for each string in the list, print the string. Each time print is called, the string will be printed on a new line. Go ahead and run your code, and on the right hand side, call print list, and we'll pass in a list of strings. Add a close square bracket, close parentheses, and there we go. Question number 2, quiz. Define a function print gt3 that accepts a list of numbers and for all numbers prints whether it is greater than 3 or not. Give it a shot. And here's the solution. Define the function print gt3 that takes a list of numbers and for numbers in the list print whether the number is greater than 3 or not. Oops, there's no the. Go ahead and run the code. And here we print gt3 and pass in a list of numbers. And there we go. The first 2 numbers, 1 and 3, are not greater than 3, but 5 is indeed greater than 3. Question number 3, this is a quiz. Define a function print add3 that accepts a list of numbers and for all numbers prints 3 more than the number. Give it a shot. Here's the solution. Define print add3. This takes in a list of numbers and for each number in the list, print 3 more than the number. Run the code, and we can double check that this function works by calling it with a list of numbers. And there we go. We have 3 more than each number in the list. Question 4, practice. Define a function print a names that accepts a list of names and for all names prints the name only if the name starts with an A. Give it a shot. And here's the solution. Define print a names and takes in a list of names, and for each name in the list, we can print name, but only if the name starts with an A. Recall from a previous set of exercises that we can check if name starts with A. Run your code, and now let's try this function. We will have a bunch of names with A and a few names without A. Question 5, quiz. Define a function print nums gt3 that accepts a list of numbers and only prints numbers greater than 3. Give it a shot. And now, here's the solution. Define print nums gt3 that accepts a list of numbers and for each number, if the number is greater than 3, print the number. Run your code, and now print nums gt3, and we'll pass in a bunch of numbers, some greater than 3. So here 5, 7, and 9 are all greater than 3, so they are printed. Question number 6, this is practice. Define a function getName that accepts a list of names and returns the first name that starts with an A. Give it a shot. Now let's talk about the solution. Notice that here I said returns the first name, not print. So go ahead and define getName. This accepts a list of names, and for name in names, just return if the name starts with A, return that name. So one thing that we haven't quite talked about here is that the return statement actually terminates the function. As soon as this return statement is executed, nothing else in the function will run. So this ensures that the first name that starts with a capital A is returned. Let's run, and let's now use this function. So here we'll have David, Alex, and let's say Emily. And here we get Alex, the first name that starts with an A. Question number 7, quiz. Define a function getOdd that accepts a list of numbers and returns the first number that is odd. Give it a shot. And here's the solution. Define getOdd that accepts a list of numbers and we'll once again loop through all the numbers. And if the number is odd, then we return the number. We can now run this code and check that the code is correct. 2, 3, 5. And here we expect 3 for our return value. Perfect. Once again, let's check. How are you doing? If this was doable, great. If this is barely doable, don't worry. Once again, let's check. How are you doing? If this was doable, great. If this was barely doable, don't worry. This was a challenging set of exercises. What's most important is that you can read the code and understand how it works. Third, if this wasn't doable, that's okay. Watch this video and the previous one again. Each time you rewatch, the concepts will sink in a little bit more. If you're feeling you've mastered this lesson, try to come up with a few extra questions and solutions. Leave them in the discussion section of the class, and your fellow students will thank you for the extra practice. That's it for Lesson 8's guided exercises.